Good morning. How's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Sunday morning. Last day of the weekend here, 11:30 a.m. California time, May 18th, 2025 is the date. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a little 0.7 across the California region there in the green flag. Looks like that's going to be around the Clear Lake volcanic field, hydrothermal plants out here. I chat about this a lot here because I get quite a few questions asking what's going on with the earthquake swarm in Northern California. Well, this is very typical on any given day out here. There's a number of these geothermal plants. I was down here a couple years ago looking at this, about 15 or 20 of them, and I'm sure maybe some new ones out here that utilize the heated areas below to produce some energy out there, and they power some homes out there across the North Bay. So that's what's going on out there. Nothing new. Just a little swarming going on. Consistent swarming, but that's very normal for that area. Not a whole lot else happening across Northern California here along the Cascadia. The tremor activity has been quite amplified underneath this region. Let me show you guys a Cascadia tremor here from yesterday. Seen a number of events out here in the last couple weeks. 695 epicenters of tremor, not volcanic tremor. A lot of folks get that confused there with the with that word tremor, right? Because you think, well, harmonic tremor, volcanic tremor. This is basically an area of the Cascadia subduction zone where the two plates are slowly slipping past one another and produce these low amplitude type of readings, very low frequency that is picked up in counts, so to speak. That's why they call these epicenter counts, not earthquakes, but tremor counts. And there's 700 of them there yesterday, getting up there on the chart here. If you look at the all data map, shows that we've surpassed our previous tremor level event as far as the daily counts go, and that was back in 2024 August, September time frame, a little bit into October as well. And then it was about a month or so later we had that 7-pointer strike there off the coast of Northern California. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. As always, I believe that there's a possibility that we could see some larger earthquake activity when the tremor is elevated, such as what we're seeing right now. Now, the tremor activity occurs about 45 kilometers deep underneath this area into the subduction zone below the locked area, deeper than the locked area. Here's the locked zone that sits just right about the coast range and then offshore some distance. That's why this area is raising up to accommodate for the strain that's been building up between the two plates here, the Juan de Fuca plate subducting underneath the North American plate here. And, of course, the deeper areas get into the melting, and you get the volcanoes there, the Cascade volcano range. But, yeah, tremor activity definitely been amplified. For those that want to know complete information on that, there's a site here called Timbler. That site, I'll leave a link to this website in the video description. And it talks all about the Cascadia subduction zone and the tremor counts and how important it is to monitor what's going on there across the area that sees the episodic tremor and slip. That one day, hopefully, will allow us to forecast when the next big megaquake will take place out here. Nobody was looking into this stuff back in 1700 when the last earthquake struck, right? But I do see during times of tremor activity or shortly thereafter, that's when things get interesting there across, along the boundaries there of the Cascadia subduction zone and some adjacent plates, similar to what we've seen last year with that 7-pointer offshore. So very interesting site and read here. Again, I'll post that for you guys if you have some time today to check out that article. But for now, covering earthquake activity, not a whole lot happening there. We'll check out the tremor counts later this evening when they come in. They normally come out about 6:30 or 7 p.m. or so California time. And then we'll take a look, see what we got for total tally. For the rest of earthquake activity, California, see if we got anything above 2.5. Negative. Nothing from today anyway. Mostly smaller microquake activity out there across Southern California again. A couple of smaller quakes around Los Angeles and the San Jacinto Fault Zone. That's been pretty active here, but that's typical on any given day. The earthquake counts out there are just that's where it happens a lot. It's a fairly lengthy fault system there, just shy of the San Andreas Fault, the plate boundary. Does accommodate a lot of strain and stress between the two plates here, but obviously this area of the plate boundary is building up some steam, and it has been. Enough steam has been built up to at least produce an 8.1 earthquake there across the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. Been hearing about that for a while, right? Eventually, we're going to be using that in the past tense there. Like it did happen. Who knows when it's going to happen, though. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up there on the map, but let's just double check that here. We'll go to this model and go over to Yellowstone thumbnails. Pretty simplified layout of the seismograph stations. Looks like, oh wow, that does look like some earthquake activity in there. Because that is indeed showing up here across a few other seismograph stations there. Let me just double check and make sure. I mean, that looks like earthquake activity. It doesn't look like thunderstorms rolling through the area. Looks way different than that. Let's go back the last 6 hours or so. I like to check these models because thunderstorms do show up across the seismograph stations there. And it looks like it was clear here in the past 6 hours. So that is indeed some earthquake activity happening around. It looks like it's happening around the same area where we had that earthquake swarm about a week ago. A little spitter spatter event. I call it spitter spatter events because it's just a bunch of earthquake activity in a very short time period. There's probably at least 100 earthquakes if we were to count every single earthquake here in this time span of about 4 hours. That happened early this morning or so. But that is, it definitely looks like earthquake activity because it did show up here across West Boundary as well. USGS is really not going to report on anything unless it's above 2.5 for this area. There's just certain regions here that are adjusted to a certain magnitude before they're issued on the earthquake catalog, which is this page right here that shows you the last 24 hours of all magnitudes. So they'll probably get to that tomorrow morning. They'll be quite busy looking through all those earthquakes there. In that, this is from yesterday here. There was still some earthquake activity happening periodically in those spikes there, but there's a lot. Let's go back to the main map. There's a lot there in that little mix of earthquake activity. West Boundary picked it up pretty nice as well. And this is just outside the Yellowstone caldera, which is in the black outline here. Yellowstone Lake over here across the west side of the east side of the park. None of these, I believe, are above 2.5. They look to be 2.0 maybe for some of the larger ones that are showing up distantly. But there's a lot of quakes probably under 1.5 or so in this mix of earthquake activity. But we'll see what they report tomorrow. I believe it's an overall sign here of stress and strain across the western portion of the U.S. We've seen numerous areas out here of elevated seismic activity. You know, just a lot happening across Northern California, a lot of inland quakes, although it may not look like it here on this map because, again, it's a weekend, and some of these places here, for whatever reason on the weekends, do not report some of the smaller quakes. If we look at the last 7 days, a lot of West Coast activity in the Pacific Northwest, Northern California specifically, because of all the Cascadia subduction zone tremor, even some offshore there along the Gorda Ridges and the Blanco fracture zone, but more amplified. We've seen the areas in Nevada showing elevated swarming, southern Nevada as well, Idaho. All these are fault systems here accommodating, a lot of pressure out here against the West Coast right now. And even Yellowstone up here has numerous fault systems leading up to it. Yellowstone caldera within this area about right here. Of course, it's super volcano, but it's happening outside of it. That's why I believe these are just stress related in terms of plate stress, fault stress in the area. And it's, fairly evident here in the West Coast view over the last week. Now, if that was happening right in the center portion of the caldera with uplift, That would be concerning because obviously that's magma underneath the area starting to push up and cause earthquake swarms. But it's not that. It's outside the caldera, and we've double checked the GPS measurements there. They're going down. Deflation. Texas popping those earthquakes out in the oil fields. I'm glad they decided to put the all magnitudes back out here. A couple days ago, I was like, what's going on? They were only showing 3.0 earthquakes and above. And I know the oil fields out here are always seeing earthquakes. So I'm thinking someone accidentally hit the switch there to make that preliminary magnitude level a little bit higher than what it should be. But 28 earthquakes, that's very common on any given day there across Texas. If you look at the last, probably missing some earthquakes out here because of that adjustment a couple days ago, but 500 earthquakes out in Texas. One would think, wow, what is going on out there? Well, if you watch this channel enough, you realize these are oil fields out here. A lot of oil fields get hit with earthquake activity south of San Antonio, Oklahoma, even up in the portions of Alberta area and Canada. That their oil fields, gas and oil fields up there, are continuously getting hit with earthquake activity. They call them industrial-related events. And it's actually got a little different reading on there compared to, I'll show you guys real quick up here in Alberta. See how their earthquakes are in a circle, right? That's legit earthquakes, but when you get into their gas and oil fields out here, they call them suspected industry-related event. So, suspected. Out there in the oil fields of Canada. So, nothing new. Nothing new out in Texas, just continuous earthquake activity in the liquid gold fields. Oklahoma, one earthquake north of OKC. The New Madrid seismic zone, nothing showing up there for now. Let's take a look here at the world view. Alaska up here, still rocking. Let me see what we got here in the last 24 hours. Largest magnitude. There's another 4-pointer up here along the Aleutian Trench. This one, 14 miles deep there. A little bit further east of the area that was swarming yesterday. There's been a little hot spot down here on the subduction zone. Last 7 days here. Yeah, this is some new activity here, as I noted this morning, about 3 o'clock this morning. Looks like strain is starting to build in this area, and the signs are starting to show here. You even got an earthquake just prior to that subduction zone. Little 2.4, about 1:30, 1:35 in the morning. An hour later there is where that 4.5 struck. So watch this area pretty closely. Looks like it may be getting ready to move as far as larger activity goes. It's not in an area that takes hundreds of years to build up steam and momentum. It's in a high strained area with at least 60 mm per year on average across this area. More as you go further west along the subduction zone and towards Japan and the Kuril-Kamchatka. These are just averages. Some areas may see more, but it's a highly dynamic area. A lot of stress and strain accumulate in a very short time period. Yes, there was an 8-pointer out here back in 2021. That was, I'm thinking that was right about here, in between these little events, these 4-pointers that we've been seeing here over the last 24 hours. So just keep an eye on it. It's, like I said, we could easily see some more quake activity out there in the sense of large magnitudes. Let's take a look here at the earthquake 3D globe. Japan, pretty quiet. This quake about ready to drop off the map there. Fairly old one from yesterday. Nothing happening on the Nankai Trough yet. Taiwan area southward still seeing continuous earthquake activity. It's going to see that unless something changes with the earth plate tectonics here. It's in an area called the crunch zone. Probably not the official scientific name there, but look at all the arrows. Notice where all the arrows are pointing here, up from the south here, heading north. The Eurasia plate, Pacific plate. Guess what? That's a lot of stress and strain there, and it's just, to me, I like to call it the crunch zone. So that's why we're always seeing earthquake activity there across the Taiwan area southward into the Indonesia region. Very active zone for earthquakes. Nothing new. New Zealand, some movement working its way southward here, south of South Island. A couple threes from yesterday or late last night. Let's see if we got anything. Madagascar, well, off the coast here. With Madagascar being over here, I believe that area, that whole region is part of a zone that is separating here from the African continent. That slowly happening. Eventually, I think these areas here that are drifting further apart will break up into smaller islands with Madagascar out there as well. That's a rift boundary. A little bit of movement happening out there today. Here's the main area of the rift boundary. Slowly filling in. That will happen eventually, in quite a long time from now. But there is 4.4 off the coast. Some movement out there across the Mediterranean today. It looks like, looks like it's close to the Santorini area. Well, maybe north of there. A couple fours out around the Greece region. Let's go see what we got for the Santorini volcano. See if it's stirring up any more earthquake swarms out here. Is it going to work? Where's our earthquakes at? Occasionally we get to see the earthquakes on here, but it doesn't look like what's happening. So we'll check out the geophysics site here and the seismic networks. Santorini, Greece. Right here, center portion of the caldera. Yeah, there's some earthquake activity local there. Looks like some twos, maybe a three-pointer in there recently. A lot of other smaller quakes. Nothing big. It's not as intense as what we had seen back in, it was a long time ago. Not a long time ago, but a couple months back here. Remember when all that earthquake swarming was happening? That's pretty crazy. So just still seeing some earthquake activity out there around the Greece area. Nothing big, but definitely a noticeable increase today around that region. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet up and down the board. Nothing happening for now. Some deeper activity there around the Puerto Rico Trench from yesterday, or from early this morning, it looks like. 3.3 earthquake on the map. You guys see that? That looks like it's just south of the border between Southern California here and the Baja region. I don't believe it's going to be this earthquake because it's being reported as a 1.1, but looks like there's a little bit larger movement happening south there from the EMSC model on the globe. Southern California, it's been a little quiet. It really has. Most of the movement has been up north, Northern California. A lot of tremor going on, and a lot of inland quakes happening out there across the west coast. But Southern California specifically, a little on the eerily quiet side. I mean, I don't know. Let's see what we've had here in the last week of 2.5 and above. Yeah, look at that. Nothing for Southern California for 2.5 and above. Most of that movement all swarming up north. A lot of inland activity across Nevada, Las Vegas. But look at Southern California. It's absolutely quiet right now. All right. Let's see what else we have out here. Anything going on in space weather? Unless something changed overnight, I think we'll continue to drop down. Flare threat has dropped down to 1% or less for X-flare. M-flare at 25% chance. Crazy how these sunspots here, they just kind of, they'll be massive, active looking over here, and then as soon as they get into a more Earth-directed view, they pretty much just dissipate like 4087 here. It's just turning into a blob of nothingness. Same with these other sunspots out here. There's really nothing at all of noteworthy activity, even minor activity that could be happening as far as solar flares go. Continued maybe unsettled conditions there in the Aurora department for tonight and maybe tomorrow night as well, but that's due to high-speed solar wind stream. Coronal hole right here, 48, been facing us for a little bit, so it will be providing some off and on high-speed solar wind stream with some chances of auroras there, pending everything works out. It is pointed towards the south of the Earth-Sun plane a little bit, so not really too worried about that. Yeah, just interesting. Just a little quiet out there. As far as any approaching asteroids to the planet, everything looks pretty safe here, folks. A couple big ones, though. Look at that. I think this is the third or fourth big one that I've seen here in the last week or so. That's a 1,300-foot stadium-sized asteroid. Definitely don't want that thing coming anywhere near us. That's 4 million miles away. Same for this one. There's been a couple big ones out here. They've been tracking them, it looks like, since 2003. At least one new one on there, 71-foot airplane-sized asteroid. That's still well over 2 million miles away, so pretty safe for now. Moderate risk across the beautiful state of Kansas here. Might be my home state one of these days. Why Kansas? Because Kansas, that's why. I love it out there. I was out there a month or so ago here doing some storm observing, and they get some storms out there today. No different. Got a decent chance here for some tornado activity right around Wichita, Augusta, westward here. Heads up. Big time tornado potential out there. That's a fairly hefty amount. 15% hatched area. Got some wind and some big time hail. So stay weather aware. That's kind of a big deal. Aside from Kansas area, this whole area needs to be on guard today for some severe weather potential. That includes tornado and big time hail threats out there. So keep your weather radio handy, folks. Keep it on a local FM radio station. A lot of times you can get the notification sent on your phone, almost automatically come through on your phone when the National Weather Service issues some type of severe weather event in your area or headed towards your area. So it's always good to make sure you have your EBS system enabled on your phone. All right, what else we got here? I think that's about it. I am probably going to set up the pool here for the kids. We got some hot days coming up here in Northern California. It's supposed to be up in the mid, maybe even upper 90s this week here in Northern California, getting close to 100 degrees. So anything around that level, I really don't like to be outside. It's just too darn hot. So having a pool, it's an above ground pool, but big enough for the kids and the family to cool off. So I'm going to get that set up, let the water warm up a little bit, because trying to get in an ice cold pool, even if it is hot outside, it's a little rough. So we'll set that up today, give it a day or so to warm up, and then I think the kids will be happy here. Once it's 100 degrees outside, school's just about ending as well. So summer vacation, pool time, sounds like a fun summer. All right, have a good one out there, folks. We'll continue to keep an eye on things, and of course we'll check back on that Cascadia tremor later this evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.